This lesson's going to piss you off, but it might just very well save your life. I'm going to expose 11 foods that have been marketed as healthy to you and your family in commercials, food labels, and by so-called experts, but they're quietly destroying your metabolism, wrecking your gut, inflaming your body, and in many cases, increasing your risk for disease. So write down all 11 of these foods and avoid them like your life depends on it, because guess what? It does. Let's start with food number 1, spinach. Spinach. I'm so sick and tired of seeing spinach on the menu of healthy restaurants. Spinach omelets, spinach smoothies. Look, spinach is not healthy for you. Spinach contains a high amount of an anti-nutrient that is highly inflammatory called oxalates. Oxalates, if you look at oxalates through a microscope, as you can see for those watching on YouTube, they look like tiny little needles, because they are. These needles, they inflame your gut. They lead to leaky gut, in some severe cases, autoimmune conditions. Not only that, oxalates bind to minerals like calcium and magnesium. They also crystallize in damaged tissues, especially your kidneys and joints. It's the leading cause to kidney stones. When oxalates accumulate in your body by consuming spinach, because they tell you it's healthy for you, it leads to joint pain, brain fog, weight gain, weight loss resistance. I already mentioned the kidney stones, and also some subtle signs like post-nasal drip and digestive issues. So I would not recommend spinach. Better swaps for spinach of foods that are actually healthy, vegetables that are actually healthy and lower in these anti-nutrients, are going to be cauliflower, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. And even healthier than all of the things I just mentioned, beef liver. There's not one vegetable that pales in comparison to the amount of nutrients you could find in beef liver. Okay, the second food that's been marketed as healthy, but is destroying your health. It's something that got me for many years and kind of wrecked my health. That's going to be almonds. When I say almonds, I mean all classifications of almonds. Eating the actual almond, almond flour, almond milk. Number 1, almonds are high in omega-6 fats. And we already have a problem with an imbalance of omega-6 to omega-3. And all you really need to know is that the more of a discrepancy between omega-6 and omega-3, the more inflammation you have inside of your body. Depending on the organ system in your body, you want about a 4-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 in your body. And most people have about a 20-to-1 ratio. And almonds contribute to that improper ratio. But it's not just the omega-6 content in almonds, it's also the oxalates that we just spoke about. I remember, and a lot of people in the keto space do this might be you, when we start to eat keto bars and keto baked goods and keto pizzas, they use a lot of almond flour. And I did this for years. And I remember I kept getting these reoccurring styes in my eye. If you've ever had a stye, it's very annoying, it's painful, it's ugly, and it lasts for weeks. And this kept happening to me. You know what was happening? I was getting an oxalate dump because I was consuming so much almond flour, almond milk, and almonds in general. And my body was getting rid of it through these styes. As soon as I got rid of almonds from my diet and the spinach we just spoke about, I haven't had a stye in years. So healthier swaps instead of almonds are going to be macadamia nuts and pili nuts, even pecans, and even walnuts. So make that swap and you're going to notice a difference the first week you do that. The third food that's marketed as healthy is farmed salmon. When they farm salmon, the typical feed for the salmon is going to be corn and soy, that's GMO, and sometimes even chicken waste. They dye the farmed salmon a synthetic pink to make it look like wild salmon. I'll show you on YouTube the difference here, as you can see, between naturally wild-caught salmon and that nice-looking pink color versus farmed salmon before they dye it pink. Farmed salmon is full of antibiotics and something called PCBs. PCBs stand for polychlorinated biphenyls, and all you need to know is that the more PCBs you consume from farmed fish, the higher your chances of developing cancer. Not to mention all the microplastics also found in farmed fish. Numerous studies show that farmed salmon has 5 to 10 times more toxins than wild-caught salmon. So a better option for you, obviously, is wild-caught salmon. And if you're looking for the proper way to eat seafood to limit your toxin exposure, because the bigger the fish, the more toxins it has. If you're looking for a good protocol, always remember the SMASH protocol for seafood. Make sure it's all wild-caught, but the following SMASH protocol foods, seafood, are going to be healthy for you. So we have the S is going to be the salmon. The M is going to be the mackerel. The A is going to be the anchovy. The S is going to be the sardines. And the H is going to be the herring. That's the SMASH protocol. Any of those fish are safer. as long as they're wild caught. The fourth food is going to be Beyond Meat. And I'm calling it a food. This one is not even a food. We're seeing these Beyond burgers, plant-based burgers, they're popping up everywhere. And I did some research and I looked at the ingredients of Beyond Meat burger. And I wanted to compare it to like just regular grass-fed beef. And I came across this video on YouTube Shorts. And actually, I'm going to play it for you because it's like 45 seconds. But this guy shows you the difference between ground beef, the ingredients in ground beef, and the ingredients in the Beyond burger. And check out the difference here.
Let's see what's inside Beyond Meat. It starts with water, pea protein, canola oil, refined coconut oil, rice protein, dried yeast, cocoa butter, methyl cellulose, which is a thickener and emulsifier, potato starch, apple extract, potassium chloride, salt, vinegar, concentrated lemon juice, beet juice extract, pomegranate extract, sunflower lecithin, and vitamins and minerals, most likely synthetic vitamins and minerals. Now this is beyond wonderful. Just one simple ingredient, ground beef. And it's wonderful for your health too. Now this, on the other hand, I don't know how beyond this is. Just look at the color.
He makes a good point. Like, the ingredients list is completely different. Just eat the red meat. They try these vegans, I have nothing against anybody who wants to be a vegan or vegetarian. I respect all thought process, but they're trying so hard to make their plant-based food look like real meat. Meat has been around forever, since humans have existed. It's highly absorbable, and you can see the biggest difference. We're just comparing real food with one single ingredient like grass-fed beef versus an ultra-processed junk food that unfortunately has been marketed as being healthy. It contains canola oil, all these artificial ingredients. Instead of the plant-based burgers, eat grass-fed meat. Eat lamb, eat pasture-raised eggs. One of the best things you can do for your health to lower inflammation and extend your lifespan is to eat more cholesterol and saturated fat. I know that's the opposite of what you've been told, but it's the truth. Number 5 on the list is going to be low-fat yogurt and low-fat dairy in general. Here's what's wrong with it. Low-fat usually means high in sugar. That's because when you remove the naturally occurring fats in dairy and yogurt, it tastes like crap. It tastes like cardboard. So they have to replace that with something that makes it more appealing to the customer. So they pack it with added sugar, artificial sweeteners like sucralose and aspartame, which destroy your gut, and even emulsifiers that damage gut bacteria. So low-fat products, they sabotage your hormonal system. They lead to brain fog. They lead to inflammation. Better options? Get full-fat, unsweetened Greek yogurt, preferably an A2 variety that's organic. And if you want to sweeten it up, maybe put a little bit of some raw honey or some organic blueberries. Number 6 on the list is going to be oats and oatmeal. Ooh, this is one that I get a lot of heat for on social media, but guess what? Oats and oatmeal are one of the highest sprayed crops in the world when it comes to pesticides and herbicides, glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. Yeah, the weed killer. And when you consume Roundup in your oats, it depletes your mitochondria, it poisons your mitochondria, it destroys your gut bacteria, and it increases your risk of cancer and other diseases. Not to mention, oats and oatmeal, even if you get an organic one that's been tested for glyphosate, that's better, but it still spikes your blood sugar levels. It has a high glycemic index. It might not spike your blood sugar level as fast as a soda, but it will happen over time. And if you've ever checked your blood sugar or put on a continuous glucose monitor, you'll see that. And the higher your blood sugar levels go, the more potential damage to your blood vessels, but also the more insulin is produced, and over time, the more fat you store. So a better option, instead of oatmeal or oats for breakfast, is going to be eggs with avocado, eggs cooked in butter with avocado, maybe even a leftover steak from dinner for breakfast with an egg on top. This brings us to the 7th food on the item on the list here. And this is actually a supplement, and it's fish oil supplementation. This is the most common question I get asked all the time on my YouTube channel, because I talk about the dangers of fish oil and people, they just don't get it. Here's what's wrong with fish oil supplementation. Number 1, fish oil is a multi-billion-dollar industry that's now been corrupted by big pharma. New Zealand has a study showing that 83% of the fish oils they tested were rancid on the shelf before it was even purchased. Let's say the fish oil you're using is the highest quality, best brand in the world. It's organic, it's cold pressed, they test for heavy metals, they do it the right way. And there are some companies that do it the right way. Well, fish oil is a very unstable fat. We hear about the problems and dangers of seed oils and vegetable oils, how they're rancid, they're inflammatory, and that is true when they're processed. Well, guess what? The reason why seed oils are so inflammatory is because of the chemical structure of those fats. I don't want to lose you in the science here, but just know this. Those seed oils contain a lot of what's called double bonds. The more double bonds a fat has, the more reactive and unstable it is, meaning it has the potential to go rancid, especially during processing, and that's what makes seed oil so inflammatory. Well, compare seed oils to fish oil. Fish oil, although it's not a seed oil, although it's an omega-3 fat, actually contains more double bonds than a seed oil, making it even more unstable. So you got to make sure it's processed the right way. But even if it's processed the right way, here's what happens when that fish oil enters your body. When it mixes with your warm body temperature, which is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, it automatically takes that high quality processed fish oil and it turns it rancid, especially when it mixes with the stomach acid. So you take a good fat and it turns into a bad fat. On top of that, so many people are overdosing on fish oil. According to the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, the average American male that's 6 foot tall requires about 7.2 milligrams of EPA and DHA every day. One capsule of fish oil on average is about 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA. And people are taking 2, 3, 4 capsules a day. It's a super physiological overdose of EPA and DHA. And this actually creates too much flexibility in the cell membranes where it's too fluid and it messes with the mitochondria via a process called cardiolipin. I don't want to lose you here, but it destroys your cells when you take fish oil. So I always say, instead of taking fish oil, eat the fish. I gave you the SMASH acronym earlier. Eat any of those wild-caught fish 1 to 2 times a week, and you'll get enough EPA and DHA. This brings us to number 8 on the list, and that's going to be lentils. I'm sorry for my Indian friends. I have a lot of Indian friends who love their lentils. My mom loves her lentils too. But lentils are high in phytic acid, which can impair mineral absorption like the oxalates we spoke about, and also irritate gut lining. They also contain lectins, which could trigger gas, bloating, gut irritation, and even autoimmune flare-ups. So I avoid lentils altogether, but if you're going to consume lentils, make sure they're organic. Make sure you soak them for about 48 hours to kind of break down some of those anti-nutrients, and even pressure cook them to help as well with the anti-nutrients. But instead, I like bone broth with some pasture-raised meat inside of the bone broth, much better than a lentil soup. So that would be a better option for you. Okay, number 9 on the list is going to be protein powders and protein bars. These are some of the dirtiest products in health history. A 2018 Clean Label project studied about 130 of the top-selling protein powders, and here's what they found. 70% contained detectable levels of heavy metals like lead, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury, and it showed that the plant-based powders often had higher contamination due to soil absorption. Many were also high in a toxin called BPA because of the plastic packaging. And to make matters even worse, if you're doing a whey protein shake and you're trying to lose weight, especially a whey isolate protein shake, it's very insulinogenic. It spikes your insulin very high, which actually causes fat storage. So instead, I would recommend grass-fed beef sticks. I would recommend protein powders that test for contaminants, protein powders that don't spike insulin very high, and protein powders that taste good. You want to make sure it checks all of that off. So personally, I use the 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef protein isolate from Equip Foods. They're clean, they test for it, and that's a good option for you. It's hard to find a good protein source, and they also have protein bars. So if you go to equipfoods.com/Ben Azadi, you could get 20% off your Equip Foods protein powders and protein bars. I'll drop a link down below. But also grass-fed beef sticks are a good option. And then just eating real protein from hard-boiled eggs, sardines, leftover meat. That's always the best option. I think protein shakes have their place. Even, the Equip Foods one I mentioned, the protein from Equip Foods. But it's to supplement when you're in a rush and you can't really get into food. But you want to eat real food most of the time. Number 10 on the list is going to be wheat bread. Whole grain bread, wheat bread. Look, modern wheat, the wheat in the United States, is hybridized. It's called dwarf wheat. It's sprayed with glyphosate, and it's full of gluten and anti-nutrients. This spikes blood sugar. And as a matter of fact, Dr. William Davis, who's a New York Times bestselling author of Wheat Belly, he also endorsed my latest book, Metabolic Freedom. He has research showing that 2 slices of wheat bread will spike your blood sugar levels as much as either a 12-ounce can of soda or a Snickers bar. Better options for wraps instead of these wheat wraps are going to be lettuce wraps or what's called egg thins or coconut wraps. And then for bread, I would just avoid bread altogether. I really haven't found a good resource for bread. Now, if you go to Italy, the wheat there is different and it might be better to consume that versus the US. But if you live in the US, I would avoid bread altogether. This brings us to number 11 on the list. All right. This is a tough one for me because it's one of my favorite foods to eat that I enjoy, but it wrecks my health and it will wreck your health as well. It's going to be peanut butter. I love peanut butter. I love the taste. I could go through a whole jar in a couple of days. I put it in everything and it tastes amazing. But peanuts are a legume and they often contain aflatoxins. This is a mold-based toxin linked to liver damage and cancer. Not to mention that most of the peanut butter you'll find in the stores also contain hydrogenated oils, added sugar, and inflammatory omega-6 fats. So a better option is going to be macadamia nut butter, peely nut butter, or even coconut butter. Now, before I get to your questions here, I want to encourage you to go get my brand new book, Metabolic Freedom. I tell you exactly what to eat, what to avoid. There's a 30-day plan in chapter 12 for you to lose 20 pounds of fat in 30 days. There's about 50 fat-burning recipes, and you'll understand more about the metabolism after reading this book or listening to this book than you've learned in your entire life. You could get it on hardcover, Kindle, Audible, Spotify. I narrated those audios myself, and we're giving away a free course on the metabolism when you go to metabolicfreedombook.com or scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the notes down below. Let's get to your questions. If I can't eat lentils, what's a good plant-based protein alternative? I would go for organic tempeh, organic natto. These are going to be fermented soys that are organic, that are much better than lentils. If Beyond Meat is bad, what about Impossible Burger or other fake meats? They're all bad. They all have equally as terrible ingredients as the others, so don't fall for it. There's also that egg product called Just Egg. That's fake egg. That's also inflammatory. Don't eat that. Eat the real egg. We're trying to, human beings are the only species smart enough to create their own food and dumb enough to actually eat it. Why are these foods still being recommended by doctors and dietitians? I'm not a cynical person. My favorite rock band in the world is The Killers. They have a song called Mr. Brightside. I'm kind of like Mr. Brightside. I'm always optimistic, but I am also a realist. So to answer the question, money, greed, corruption, propaganda, big pharma, big food, big gov, they're all in cahoots. And they fund the studies your doctor and dietitians are looking at. There's incentives for prescribing medication. I used to say the system is broken. It's not broken. It's operating exactly the way it was designed. It's a cash cow. It's a subscription method. My goal is to strip the power away from big pharma and give it to you. So I hope this video was useful. Share it with somebody you know. If you're listening on the podcast, leave it a rating and review. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And speaking of which, I have a recent video I outlined on 10 foods that guarantee fat loss. If you want to lower insulin, lower inflammation, and burn fat, add these 10 foods into your grocery shopping list. Check out the clip from that video, and I'll see you in that lesson by clicking the video on the screen. See you there. There are two types of food that we eat: foods that cause weight gain and foods that cause fat loss. Numerous studies show how beneficial olive oil is, not just for your health, but for fat loss, weight loss resistance, insulin resistance, and also diabetes. The findings showed that the group consuming the olive oil was more effective